The limited sale of alcohol at school functions is allowed under the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. Civil society organizations also blew the whistle on other provisions, such as the one criminalizing truancy. Now, according to the department, the bill is designed to protect the right to basic education. And the things that we've just mentioned are just some of the sections of what is known as the 2022 Bela Bill. To discuss some more about this, we're joined now from Cape Town virtually by Equal Education's Jane Borman. Jane, thank you so much for joining us. We've mentioned, of course, one or two of some of those sections that you, along with the Equal Education's Law Centre, Section 27, Centre for Child Law, the Children's Institute and the Legal Resources Centre have taken up in written submissions on that Basic Education Law Amendment Bill to the Basic Education Portfolio Committee in Parliament. And that was scheduled for today. So we were hoping we could just run through a couple of them. Of course, the one that received quite a bit of attention is the one around the limited sale of alcohol at school functions. Now, when I read that, I thought, but surely this is a no-brainer. What is the thinking behind this change, or behind what they're trying to include in this amended bill to allow alcohol to be sold at school functions? Is it just to do with fundraising?
Hi, yes, thank you so much for having me. Well, we think that one of the main reasons is obviously to promote money, fundraising, raising money, all of that kind of, those kind of activities. I mean, there is really no other reason or function for selling alcohol at schools. I mean, obviously, it opens up learners to a huge amount of risk, whether it's, exposure to underage drinking or exposure to inebriated adults. So I think really the only reason would be as a fundraising. But we really feel that the harm outweighs the benefit on this one.
And one of the other suggested sections of the bill includes the criminalization of anyone, including parents, caregivers, who prevent their children from attending school or participating in the interruption of school activities. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a good thing, right? But you and the partners in writing these submissions have said it's not that simple. And if parents or caregivers are thrown in jail for up to 12 months, in the end, it's the child that suffers, even though they were being kept from school. Explain your thinking behind that one.
So, as the Bela Bill currently stands, so without these new amendments, it already criminalizes parents or any individual who keeps their children out of school, and parents who keep their children out of school. And basically, the problem is that in this new bill, they are increasing the potential jail time from 6 to 12 months. We, as a civil society organization, are saying that there should be absolutely no jail time for parents who keep their children out of school. The reason being that this doesn't get to the heart of why learners are likely to not be attending school. These could be issues such as poverty, concerns over their safety at school, and without addressing those underlying issues, criminalizing parents will only exacerbate the problem.
In your experience, I know this is a bit of a curveball, but have we had many cases of parents or caregivers ending up in jail for keeping their kids from school as the law is currently set up?
No, so we haven't, but as the law stands, we could do. So all you would need is in some district or in some province, them to go after a parent or a teacher in this manner, and this would be a completely legitimate crime, and they could and would be sentenced to up to 12 months.
So what we're saying is that the current law as it's set up hasn't been actually effective, because we do know that there are parents and caregivers who are, for whatever reason, keeping their kids from attending school when they're at the age when they're supposed to.
Yes, exactly. No, this is not, I mean, some might argue that maybe this is just supposed to be acting as a deterrent, and just having it in there is supposed to promote this and send sort of like a moral message. But at the end of the day, even if it hasn't been utilized up till now, it can be. And that for us is deeply concerning, because it has the potential, even in just one case or two cases, to obviously have extremely detrimental effect.
Let's talk a bit about documentation that is needed for kids to be able to to get admitted to school. A section of the Bela Bill that you've found issues with is the one which requires certain documents for school admission, introducing fines or imprisonment. Again, imprisonment for parents or caregivers for submitting false or misleading information. Now, again, on the surface, it looks like they're trying to do the right thing, but because our society is quite complex, we are sitting with a situation where parents might not have that documentation, and they might not have the legal documentation because this is the reality that we live with. And again, we're looking at kids suffering the consequences of something like that if it is pushed through as part of the Bela Bill. Talk us through what some of those consequences would be if something like this with regards to documentation or passports or birth certificates is pushed through as part of the Bela Bill.
Well, it's first important to remember that essentially all children of school-going age have the right to attend school, and it's important to see the Bela Bill as trying to give life to that right. And now what we see in this provision around documentation is that the very bill that is supposed to be protecting this right has the serious potential to undermine it. If we are saying that, false documentation mustn't be submitted, which is completely correct, we have to look at, why? The reasons are often, maybe there has been issues around receiving the actual documentation from Home Affairs, around work permits, etc. And so through desperation, a parent might forge a document. Now, obviously, we can't condone that, but simply criminalizing it doesn't address the issues that can lead to it. And like you said, for any child who is already in a vulnerable position, one of the most disruptive things that can happen to them is to have their caregiver imprisoned or go to jail for 12 months. So we really feel that doesn't really get to the heart of what Bela is supposed to be about.
Now, just finally, before I let you go, the powers of school governing bodies is also addressed by the 2022 Bela Bill. Now, school governing bodies have become pretty powerful in South Africa. And yes, to do with the running of schools and ensuring that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. But many would maintain that the school governing bodies at certain schools in certain areas of South Africa have abused that power and have used it to exclude people from gaining the education that the Constitution says that they have a right to. Talk to us about what the Bela Bill is setting out to do in terms of changing some of the powers of school governing body and where you have some issues with that.
So we really fully support the idea or the philosophy by the Department of Basic Education that there needs to be some oversight of school governing bodies. So we are definitely supportive of some of the amendments that basically require school governing bodies to report and have more guidance and oversight from provincial education departments. And specifically speaking on the language policy, you're right. What we do see is that some schools and some school governing bodies use their ability to determine a language policy or to determine certain criteria to purposefully exclude other learners. Now, that's obviously unfortunate, but it is a reality, and one of the only real ways to address that is to, one, provide more oversight of school governing bodies, and two, which we are calling for, to explicitly say in the legislation on language policies that school governing bodies cannot use language policies as a means to exclude, purposefully exclude learners.
Okay, so Jane, what happens next? You've ended in these written submissions on the Basic Education Law Amendment Bill to the Basic Education Portfolio Committee in Parliament. What happens next?
So this is obviously a very, very big development in basic education law. I mean, I think it's in the last decade, this is the biggest changes in school laws. So the Parliamentary Committee, the Basic Education Parliamentary Committee, is intending to hold public hearings. So that means they will be traveling around to different provinces, allowing spaces in different communities to get the voices of people who wouldn't know of the written submissions or be able to access that. So that's something we are watching very, very closely, and we are really, really hoping that, you know, communities get involved and mobilize around issues that they've seen in their schools. And so that's something that we'll be talking about and looking forward to.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll look out for the updates on that. That's Equal Education's Jane Borman joining us live there from Cape Town. We thank her for her time this evening.